Marilyn Manson says that music is the strongest form of magic. I'd say he's close. I might disagree a little, but I do know that Emily Dickinson may have experienced a little of this magic.
You said you went in the seas, he wrote on. Oh, you're Emily Dickinson.
Good morning and welcome to Lost for Words, where we explore great women poets. I am Sarah Elizabeth Woods, and we are continuing our journey exploring the poetry of Miss Emily Dickinson. And today we are going with Emily to church. And on her visit to church, she has quite a magical experience. I really love this poem because it shows the power of music and the incredible power that music has to allow you to feel something. I'm going to read it really quickly, okay? It's number 183 in the Complete Poems of Emily Dickinson, and you can also find a written form of the poem in the description below. All right, let's begin. I've heard an organ talk sometimes in a cathedral aisle, and understood no word it said, yet held my breath the while, and risen up and gone away, a more Bernardine Girl, yet know not what was done to me in that old chapel aisle. So here we are, we're with Emily Dickinson, and I feel like you can imagine her walking into this church. She walks in, and at the front there is an organ, and she describes this organ as talking. So someone, is playing with their hands on this organ, and this organ is making sound. It is talking to her. And I love this description of an organ talking because it makes you imagine, or for me, I suddenly imagine every instrument, whether it's a violin or a trumpet, a guitar, a drum, whatever instrument, that when it makes noise, that is when it's talking. And that's when it has something to say. But it's funny, she says, I've heard an organ talk sometimes in a cathedral aisle, and understood no word it said, yet held my breath the while. So this organ, this instrument, is speaking a language that she does not understand, and she doesn't know what it's saying to her. But nevertheless, it has left her breathless. For me, this makes me think of how we experience nature. Like if you experience seeing like a grand mountain or the ocean for the first time, or really beautiful sunset or sunrise, where you imagine encountering this really beautiful sky where the sunset or the sunrise is doing something amazing with all of its colors. And that feeling of awe that you feel when you encounter those things, it sort of like takes your breath away. So this makes me imagine that whatever this organ is saying is that grand, is that beautiful, that it leaves Emily Dickinson breathless. And that is a powerful thing. If you think about music, it really is powerful, because like I know I can listen to one song, like I can listen to Jason Derulo, and it can make me have energy and feel sensual. And then I could listen to Alison Krauss, and it can sort of like, her music can make me feel mellow and soft and a little bit sad and relaxed. It can let Then you could listen to somebody like Disturbed, or something more hard, and it would let you experience the places in you that might be a little bit darker or angrier or frustrated. I feel like music allows us to express the full gamut of human emotion. So every part of us, whether it's a part of us that's filled with joy, that is filled with sorrow, that is filled with anger, that has fallen in love, feels sensuality or lust, that is bitter, that is aching and hurting, the part of us that is screaming for relief or release or freedom. Music allows us to express all of those feelings, even the feeling of awe and the possibility of transcending all the darkest parts of our humanity and experiencing something beautiful and light. There is something about music that happens maybe in church, or music that is about God, that sort of makes you lift your eyes up, I would say. There's something about it that takes you out of yourself a little bit. And so if you've read much Emily Dickinson, you might know that she does have some themes about God in her poems, and Jesus shows up in her poems. There's some doubt that shows up in her poems. But one thing, if you've read her, you might know about her, is that it seems to me that she experiences God in nature. She has this one poem, and this poem says, "Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home, with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. I just wear my wings, and instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long, so instead of going to heaven at last, I am going all along." So if you read this poem, you kind of come away realizing that Emily Dickinson, she experiences God, but for her, it seems like she experiences God in nature and in her regular life. And you can sort of see this in the way she describes the birds that are a part of the choir, and the way the trees are the dome of the church, and God is the clergyman, the preacher that she listens to. And for her, it's not about going to church so that she can go to heaven one day. She's saying that she experiences heaven all along because she experiences God in everything around her. So it almost feels like she doesn't quite buy into the idea of finding God in church. And so in this poem that we read today, I've heard an organ talk sometimes in a cathedral aisle and understood no word it said, yet held my breath a while. And risen up and gone away, a more Bernardine girl, yet know not what was done to me in that old chapel aisle. Okay, so, sorry, I'm taking my shoes off. My feet are going numb. I'm trying to be like, to move around and do these videos in different places, and just to not let myself get bored. Today it's like raining and cozy, so I thought I would do it here with my dog near the window. I don't know if you can hear it raining. So she's saying she didn't know what this organ was saying, but it took her breath away. And then when she left the church, she left a more Bernardine girl. So I was like, what the heck is a Bernardine girl? You know, I grew up in church, but it was like kind of like a hippie charismatic church. And so I have no idea what a Bernardine girl is. So I went into the dark web, down many rabbit holes to discover what a Bernardine girl is. And it sounds like it might be something in the Catholic Church. There's a lot of history here, a lot of stuff. So, no, really, there is a lot of history here. So I'm going to interrupt myself and try to shorten this little experience for you guys, because I blabber on and on trying to clarify what a Bernardine girl is for you guys. So let's just say a Bernardine person is either a monk or a nun that was following in the ways of Saint Benedict, and also a guy that tried to revive that, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, I believe. So these Bernardine girls are basically nuns who have devoted themselves to God and to follow Christ according to the gospel into their church, to seek God in community through prayer, service to others, to have all things in common, to live in simplicity, in silence, in solitude, and for hospitality to be one of their key values. But one thing that's different about these ladies is they give up their regular lives to go and live for God in an abbey or a monastery. So from what we've read about Emily Dickinson, we see that these Bernardine ladies are quite different from her, whereas she is experiencing God in nature all around her and in her everyday life. These nuns are experiencing God through this organized church experience and living literally in the church by giving up their lives. But what I gathered about these Bernardine monks and nuns is that they were very devoted to God, but it seems like they were also very devoted to their abbeys, monasteries, church, what you want to call it. And they had a way of life that they committed to that sounds pretty serious, and like they completely, like they give up their outside life to go and be in these monasteries or abbeys, and to live this like holy life. And so there is something really beautiful about it, but it seems like these people have really experienced God in these places, and so they devote themselves to these places. So you have Emily Dickinson walking into the church aisle and experiencing this organ, and so Emily Dickinson is this woman who experiences God in her life and in nature. And so when she walks in and hears the music that is coming from this organ, she doesn't know what it's saying, but it's like she suddenly feels what these Bernardine girls feel, these nuns, these monks, like she suddenly feels the breathlessness, the awe that they experience in their religious experience, in their music. And she says that it changes her because she leaves. So she comes in, a woman doesn't feel the need to give up her everyday life for the church. But after this experience, after experiencing this organ and the breathlessness, it's like she can suddenly feel why somebody would maybe become a Bernardine Girl, like why they would devote their life to God through the church and being in that place, because it was so magical. Because it says she doesn't yet know, she left a more Bernardine Girl, yet know not what was done to me in that old chapel aisle. So that's kind of an amazing way to describe this music that she heard, because she knows she came in there one person. She experienced this music. It left her breathless. And when she left, she felt changed and she felt like something had happened to her, but she doesn't really know what it is. Which I think is Emily. Yeah, it kind of makes me imagine her a little bit speechless because she doesn't know what happened. She's like, what happened? I don't know what happened. So Maria von Trapp is a woman that actually inspired the character in The Sound of Music. Her family did. I guess they're a very musical family. But there's a quote by her, and it says, "Music acts like a key to which the most tightly closed heart opens." What is it? Beethoven, he says, "Music is the mediator between the spiritual and the sensual life." And I just love that because it expresses that music is the thing that connects between the sensual life, the life that we live with everything that we can touch and see and hear and feel, with the part of life that we can't touch or see or feel, like the part that's inside of us and that's beyond us, the spiritual, the spirit life, which makes you think of our own spirit and like God's spirit, the spirit of all living things, the things that are not tangible. It makes you think of maybe even like the wind, like something you can feel but you can't see it or touch it or hold on to it. So I feel like in this poem, Emily Dickinson has let us see the power of music and what music, this one experience with music, did to her. It inspired her, made her feel and understand a person who was sort of the opposite of her. And that's a pretty powerful thing. Music does, if you do listen to music, you probably have certain music that you're drawn to and that you like to listen to, because you relate to it and you it connects with your experiences. But there's also music out there that you probably, when you listen to it, that you don't understand. And when you listen to the words, you're like, why would they say that? Like, what is this? What are they talking about? But sometimes the music that goes behind it lets you feel the feeling even without having to understand the words. Does that make sense? I don't know. So I think I feel like music is very powerful. I know personally that I remember I used to leave my radio on sometimes at night, like on G105, like when I was in middle school. And I remember one night waking up. I remember several times like waking up in the middle of the night and hearing music like Nine Inch Nails or Metallica or maybe like Marilyn Manson, because I think alternative, that kind of music was just more a part of our pop radio, popular radio, when I was in middle school. And so, but I remember waking up and laying in my bed like, and it was like pitch black in my room, and those were some of the songs that would be on, and it was terrifying. I go to wake up and be like, oh God. In the same way that Emily Dickinson felt breathless upon hearing this organ, with this music, I remember feeling terror and a speechlessness at the intensity of fear and depths of darkness that I was experiencing. But then, like, I know, it's funny, like, I, in my adult life, have really, like, struggled with what I believe and how I feel about church and things like that. And I've grown up in church most of my life. And I really have gotten to the place where I have a very hard time, like, being around, like, any kind of preaching for some reason. But it's weird. I can put on music. Like, there'll be times I've put on, like, piano guys, I think, just to have, like, some kind of, like, calm background music. And for some reason, it'll slowly end up playing some more, like, Christian praise music. And it's funny, the music still, like, when I hear the music, it, like, I mean, it takes hold of me in a different way that, like, does that same thing that Emily Dickinson's talking about, where it sort of makes you look up and, like, takes you out of your self a little bit. And it's really, like, to me, it's really beautiful and amazing. So it's very weird to me that I have gotten to a place in my life, I feel like, where I can barely stand to listen to preaching or be in a church for very long. But for some reason, my spirit or my heart doesn't feel closed off to the music. It actually, like, has a very powerful feeling for me sometimes, which is kind of weird. Like, so I feel like I kind of relate to Emily Dickinson with this a little bit. When you experience something, when you experience really powerful music, that it can change you. But it's funny, in the beginning I quoted Marilyn Manson. He said that music is the most powerful form of magic. I'm curious, do you agree with Marilyn Manson that music is the most powerful kind of magic? Do you think there is anything that's more powerful than music? I don't know. I think that's an interesting question. But I think it's fascinating that Marilyn Manson and this guy and Maria von Trapp and this lady, the Sound of Music lady, both recognized its power. And Maria von Trapp said that she feels like music is a key that can open even the tightest closed heart. I think that's kind of amazing, that that whole idea that we can be that closed off, that hurt, that afraid, and that music has the power to, like, open us back up to people, open us back up maybe to God, open us up to living. I don't know. I think that's kind of a cool idea. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. What kind of music, has music ever changed you? Yes, I would love to know if you've ever experienced music in a way where you left the experience feeling like, wow, what just happened to me? That was amazing. And you weren't expecting it? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful week. Goodbye.
Your heart with joy and gladness. Instead, Dickinson. You're Emily Dickinson.